Hi everyone, I am Anju. Welcome to my channel Excel Made Easy. In this video, we are going to talk about data range and the tables used in Excel. How tables are going to be beneficial for us in certain cases. So we are going to see it with some examples. So I am using customer master sheet as an example. And here we have some customer data and there are bill amounts here. Suppose this bill amount is to be used for some calculations in one sheet. So I'm going to that another sheet here. And let's say we write that function equal to sum, open bracket, and then I'm using the data from here, that is bill amount. So when I'm selecting this data, what's exactly happening in the sum function? It is selecting the starting cell and the end cell and separated by a column. That is called as a data range in Excel. So starting cell and end cell means all the cells in between, and these two cells are also going to be included for the calculation. So that's your data range. So when I'm completing this calculation, closing bracket and then press enter, we get to see the result over here. Now suppose this data gets some change. Say for example, right now this value is 50,000 and I'm changing it to 60,000. So there will be a difference of 10,000. So what is the current value? That's 11 lakh 3,000. And we can just change this to say 60,000. Are we going to see the change? Yes, that change gets updated. So as long as the change is happening within the existing data, all is good until you get new records added to your data. So what happens when the new records are added? I am entering some new information, let's say, and some bill amount, let's say 50,000. So when I'm doing this, do we see that result getting updated automatically? No. So what happens if you have a static data and the changes are happening in between the data? All is good for the formula using data ranges. But as soon as new records are added, then in that case, these new data range does not get updated to your existing one. You have to manually check each formula where these ranges are used and you have to correct it. Same thing happens with the pivot table also. If you created a pivot table using this data as a data range, then in that case, new records will not become a part of your pivot table automatically. So you will have to, change the range again. Now, if your data is such that there are changes happening quite often, changes in the sense new records also come in to your data. So in that case, I would suggest you, rather than using the data range, you can actually opt for tables. Now, how do you create tables in Excel? So for that, I am selecting the data. In the home tab, we have all the formatting options. So there is one more option as format as table. So I am formatting my data as table. Select any of the suitable format. It will confirm the range and it will also confirm whether my table has headers. So since I selected heading row also as a part of my data range, so let this be checked. So I click on OK. And now this data has been treated as a table. How do you know that? As we formatted it as table, on pointing onto this area, you will notice that there is a table design on the top. Table design tab contains all the options related to, managing this table. So for example, you want to change the color style, you want to change the header row settings. You may not want to treat your header row, differently. In that case, you can make the changes. Suppose I uncheck header row, then it gets removed. So in that case, only the data will be included. So that's how you can manage the settings from here. And here itself, you have the summarize with pivot table option. There is a table name which is given to it. But my suggestion is that you can give it a comfortable name which can be easily identified later on. So I am giving the name to this table as customers. So now this data will be identified as customers in the different sheets also if you want to write the formula. Okay, and another important thing you will notice, in the last cell, there is a small icon here. That is the end of the data. So if you press a tab, you will notice automatically we have come to a new record area. That is, a new row is being added and this icon is shifted to that part. So let's say I just add the new data and I'm using say 50,000 new value. So when I added a new record, do you see the change in the formula result? 50,000 more are added to it. So if you are creating a table for the data where new records are added quite often, then formula range does not have to be manually updated. It can automatically get updated with the table range. So that's the advantage. You don't have to look for your all the formula and modify the range and all. And another important thing is when I'm writing this formula, suppose here itself you will notice the range has been given because that is how we wrote the formula. But now onwards, suppose if you write a formula, say count, and you select this range, you will notice how this data has been used, how the names are used. The data is referred to as customers, that is the name of the table, and the field name. So it means you can refer to it directly with the table name rather than using the sheet name and the data range references. So that becomes easier to use. So that's how tables are going to help you in case your data keeps on changing. Your formula and pivot table, all the calculations can be updated automatically. You need not manually change the range. Hope the purpose of Excel tables are clear to all of you. See you in the next video.